I feel like if there's one group of professionals that encounter death more than morticians, it is doctors. So many people pass away in hospitals. No wonder hospitals are some of the most haunted locations in the world. They're also cesspools for paranormal activity. I feel like the light and smell of a hospital is already not ideal, but some people find that creepy in and of itself. I grew up always going to a clinic or a hospital because my parents are doctors, so I weirdly feel very at home at hospitals, which is kind of weird in itself. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be bringing you the top 10 doctors who encountered the paranormal. Starting us off at number 10 is Hannah. This story kind of got me upset. I don't know why. Like, Amy, you know that anxious feeling in your stomach and like you just feel a bit sad? That's what it made me feel like. So this one was shared by a Reddit user called RKelM, who worked at the hospital. They said there was one day where a little boy was brought in an ambulance. He had had the common cold, and his parents had tucked him into bed real warm, but it started getting worse. The toddler started going in and out of consciousness, and despite trying their best doing a rapid intubation, the boy ended up passing away a few days later. But before he did, anytime his parents weren't at the hospital, he kept talking to the user about his baby sister Hannah. And this hit way too close to home for the user, who had a son similar in age to him and a daughter called Hannah. Either way, the boy dies and 2 years go by and the same family comes in with their sick daughter, and the daughter was called Hannah, which was weird. When the boy mentioned her, the user assumed she was at home alive and well, but she hadn't even been birthed or conceived yet. How did he know he was gonna have a baby sister called Hannah? Coming in at number 9 are the burns. So this one is genuinely one of the most screwed up stories I've ever read about, and believe me, I've read a lot of stories for this channel. Shared by Reddit user My Dog Operates Better Than You, which let's appreciate that for a second. Now, so this user was doing his rotation in a burn unit when this occurred. A pimp in the city decided to light one of his prostitutes on fire, and as a last resort, she bear hugged him. As you can imagine, both of them suffered pretty severe injuries, especially her since she also had inhalation burns. They were both being treated in the same ICU, but on opposite ends of the hospital, understandably so. A few weeks go by and eventually the woman succumbs to her injuries and passes away. Not even 30 minutes after she dies, the pimp starts screaming on the other side of the hospital saying, "Get her out, get the goddamn bitch out of my room." This dude was seeing her ghost in his room and freaking the hell out. Honestly, if I was her and I died because of him lighting me on fire, I would haunt him till the day he dies. No cap. Don't give a shit. At number 8, we have pediatrics. Pediatricians must have so much patience since they're the ones dealing with your baby until they're 18. They're dealing with every new parent calling them 50 times at night because their baby burped and they thought it was choking. This one was shared by a pediatrician on Reddit that goes by the username AGF0605, and there was a rumor at his hospital that the 4th floor next to the oncology unit was haunted. Now, the user usually didn't do night shifts, but that night they had picked one up and was working in the NICU, which was also on the 4th floor. Basically, if you don't know what the NICU is, it's where they take neonatal babies, either some who have been born prematurely or born with a few issues, so they just stay in the NICU. In case you didn't know that. Now at about 3 AM, the user was ready to take their break, so they took a shortcut through the oncology unit. But when they went through the double doors, they saw this child skipping merrily down the hall. And as a doctor, the user thought the kid had left his room, so he called out to him, but just as he did, the kid turned around and disappeared into thin air. Funnily enough, a lot of other doctors and nurses had seen that same kid in that same hallway. So I'm guessing this kid passed away at the hospital and his spirit is just roaming around, skipping merrily along. Filling at number 7 slot are bedtime stories. Serenity user Bratipilla's mum used to work at the burn unit at this hospital in Dallas. She would work the night shifts and would always get asked whether the burn unit was haunted or not, and honestly, she didn't really have an answer. One night, a little girl came in with severe burns, and naturally her parents couldn't stay with her every single night at the hospital, so the user's mum would check up on her a lot, you know, just to make sure she was okay and stuff. Either way, one night the user's mum asked the girl if she ever got scared, and she said, "No, I don't get scared because an old woman comes to read to me every single night and sits beside my bed while I fall asleep." That's honestly super heartwarming, except for the fact there was no older women employees working that night, and the mom was usually the only one on duty. So whose grandma died and kept this girl from feeling scared? Because that's very cute. We stand. Now at number 6 is The Medium. This one's super interesting and was shared by Reddit user Smack Max, who worked at a psych ward. Now at this ward there was this one patient that said she had psychic abilities, and the user wasn't really a believer but just humored the patient anyway. She would do readings for the staff and have a bit of a laugh, and because of her recent stroke she had trouble walking on her own. One night she pressed on her call buzzer and a nurse came in to check on her. The woman told her she should check on the patient in the side room since he was now dead. Keep in mind this woman cannot move, so it's not like she could have gone in there and checked herself. The doctor and nurse went into the side room to find the patient very much dead. As they prepared the body bag and everything, the duo asked the patient how she knew he had died, and she said she saw him coming out of his room looking very distressed, and then she realized she must be seeing his ghost. She then apparently went ghost whisperer on him and explained to him what was going on and how he could pass over to the light. You bet your ass the user became a believer after that. Coming in at number 5 is Hysteria. This one is a doozy. I feel like if I was the patient in this story, I would have literally thought I was in actual hell. So this one was shared by Redditor I would rather not say one, who shared this story on behalf of her friend who is a doctor. One day a woman was brought in and she was already unconscious when she came inside. But as soon as she was put in her room, she woke up absolutely hysterical, crying non-stop, thrashing around, begging to be taken out of the hospital, and so the doctor finally listened to her and took her outside. The second the woman crossed the exit door, she was completely calm. After a while, she explained how she can see the dead and they know she can see them, so they had all surrounded her bed inside the hospital and were just shouting at her, asking for her help. Damn, can you imagine that? I couldn't be able to handle that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I couldn't be able to handle that. What's English? At number 4 is The Comeback. This one was shared on Reddit 5 months ago by user Easy Growth, who works at a hospital. One of her patients was this card reader who was very well liked in Louisiana, and she was damn accurate too. Anyway, the user had been caring for her for a few days, but that specific day she had been extra lethargic. Thinking she should check on her, the user went in to find her completely unresponsive, with her daughter trying frantically to wake her up. The user tries a sternal rub, but no response. Just as she calls a rapid response, the woman wakes back up bursting with energy within 30 seconds, which is not natural. She shared that she had just died and was watching the two girls in the room the whole time and knew everything that had just happened. Apparently God told her it wasn't time to die yet, so she woke up and a few days later was actually discharged. She's still alive in her 80s now, still doing card readings. Can you imagine? Filling at number 3 slot is the neurosurgeon. So this one was shared by Quasi_Modo on Reddit, who had a 6-year-old who fell after climbing a tree. Why do we love climbing trees as kids? What is it? It's just so fun, we can't help it. Anyway, the user rushed her daughter to the hospital where she stayed unresponsive. She wouldn't react to pain, voice, yet it seemed like she was talking to someone. The neurosurgeon heard the little girl say, "Well, I don't know, but I don't want to be dead," before becoming unresponsive again. Like, was she talking to God? Thankfully, the surgeon got her in the operating room in time and she survived. Funnily enough, she doesn't remember saying that at all. Dude, she literally was dead and was talking to God about not wanting to die. It's crazy. Now at number 2 is the disappearance. I have no explanations for this one whatsoever, so if any of you do, please comment away and let me know. Shared by Redditor Dumble the Door, who works at a hospital, they recounted the story of this one day where a patient had to get an x-ray done. He was taken to the room in a wheelchair and left there to get everything done. You know how it goes, and approximately 5 minutes later a notification from the patient's room goes off, so obviously the user goes in to check on everything and make sure everything's good. As soon as he walks in, he realizes everything is gone. The bed was gone, the patient was gone, the windows were closed, so it's not like he went out that way. I mean, the guy couldn't walk on his own, so I don't think he's jumping out the window, period, let alone with a bed. The attending nurse also had no idea where the bed or patient went, literally clueless. They just replaced the bed and that was that. What the hell? And finally, at number 1 is Strapped Down. This one was such a hidden gem that I found on Reddit, but I'm glad I did because this story is the one where it's like, okay, I've had enough, good night, internet. Shared by Reddit user Circle_Stone, they said how their aunt is a nurse and how she experienced something horrific. I know she's not a doctor, but still, medical field. Allow it. Now at the hospital there was this one old lady that refused to sleep unless she was strapped down in her bed at night. Apparently there was a dark figure that she could see trying to grab her and drag her out of the room and kill her, so she had to be strapped to the bed. The aunt obliged and would routinely check in on her the next few nights, and anytime they walked in, it looked like someone was trying to pull her off the bed right in front of their eyes. The next night the user's aunt is off and a new nurse is working who does not strap down the old lady. When she went in to check on her an hour later, the old woman was dead on the floor by the door. Her hand was just stretched past the door into the hallway, just like she said she would die, which is just so utterly creepy, you guys. And that is it for today's video, guys. Let me know if you've had any weird paranormal experiences at hospitals. You don't have to be a doctor or a nurse yourself, you know, just let me know if you saw anything. I personally have not, and I feel like I've spent more time at a hospital than the average human being, you know? Anyway, I've been your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! They said there was one day where a little boy was brought in on an ambulance. He was on it. So this one was shared by a so this is a hard word. This one was pediatrician.
Yeah, pediatrician.
Huh?
Pediatrician.
Pediatrician.
Yeah.
Scared. It's hard. I couldn't be able to handle that. Wouldn't shan't. Shan't can't.